Today we're going to go over generating those mid-year giving statements. I also want to show you how to get a statement out that includes pledging information and also one that leaves it out. So if you're not a pledging church, this will be helpful for you. Or if you're feeling like you need to get statements out that don't show pledging information on it for the mid-year statement, we'll do that. But also, a lot of times churches that do handle pledging actually use this mid-year statement as a way to show people where they are for their pledge. If they're right on target, a little behind, little ahead, this is a good statement to pass out to your givers to show them that. A couple things about the GoToWebinar toolbar. You do have a place to ask questions. So if you expand the little questions section of your GoToWebinar toolbar, you can put questions right in there. I do ask that you try to stick to the topic at hand today. If you have questions specific to your data or a question that's might be a little bit more involved than what we're going to today, that would be great if you give us a call or shoot us an email at support@churchwindows.com. We would be happy to help you there. Also on the GoToWebinar toolbar, there's a small arrow in like an orange box. If you hit that, that'll actually shrink up the GoToWebinar toolbar and give you a little bit more room on your screen so you can see what I'm doing and where I'm clicking around. Okay, so the version of Church Windows, I do want to show you that. Most current version is going to be 18.15.4. That's shown right up here in the top right hand corner. If you're showing something other than 18.15.4, you can head out to the website and download an update, or feel free to call us and we can help you if you need it. All right, well, let's jump in here. Let me minimize this. And I already have donations open. There is two different ways you can get to the donation statements report here in donations. Real easy, right on the front screen here. You just click on this little box and it'll open up the donation statement window. Or you can come up here, click on reports first, and then grab the donation statements box right there. Both options are going to open up an identical screen. And it's going to open up with step 1. Okay, so there's going to be 2 steps when you're creating your donation statement. So step 1 is really about who you want to give a statement to. So the criteria that you're going to use to generate your statement. Step 2 is going to be more involved on what your statement looks like. Okay, so step 1 is who we want. By default, Church Windows is only going to pull up those people who have giving, and regardless of their pledging. So this is looking at people that have given, and it doesn't really matter if they've pledged or not. Okay. Now another thing to keep in mind when running your statements is this date range over here on the right. All right, so it's going to default to the whole year, but when you run a donation statement, this criteria over here on the left is applied to the date range that you have selected over here on the right. So for this example, it's only going to look at people who have given, regardless of their pledging information, for the date range of the whole year. Okay, now if you wanted to look at everybody, say you want to give a statement to everybody, regardless of whether they've given or not, then you could change that to all. Or say, for example, you only want people who have a pledge. Then you could leave the giving on all, and then come down here under pledging include, and you could select only those who pledged. So this would give you statements for just people who have a pledge entered into donations within this date range. Okay, but for our example, I'm going to leave it on only those who gave and all pledging, because I want to get a statement for everybody that's given a gift in 2016. Okay, now because we're doing mid-year statements, I am also going to come over here into my date range box, and I am going to adjust my end date to 6/30. So I just want to see giving through the first 2 quarters. Okay, so I've updated my date range. You can also come up here to the Givers tab up at the top. Givers would be if you wanted to put in a little bit more information, a little bit more criteria on who you want to see. So for example, if you only want to print statements for people that have a giver number in a particular range, you could do that over here in the giver number box. Say you only wanted members to get a statement, then you would simply uncheck this visitors box and you would only get people in your membership side or member side of membership. Also, by default on donation statements, you are going to get terminated inactive people. Okay, now that means only terminated and inactive people that have giving in the date range you specified. So you're not going to get everybody, just those people that meet that criteria that we put on the giving and pledging tab, that first tab. All right, you can also put in some other criteria over here on the right. This would be if you wanted to query on something specific like from membership, like a status code or something like that. That can be done here. But usually for regular statements, a majority of people aren't going to put anything in here on this Givers tab. But I did just want to give you an idea of where you could put in more criteria if you wanted to. All right, let's jump to the Accounts tab. The Accounts tab would be if you wanted to generate donation statements, but you only wanted to include information per particular giving accounts. By default, all accounts are going to be included on your donation statement, but if you're looking to only have a handful of accounts included on your donation statement, you would select those and move them over here on the right. Once again, usually you don't need to do this because you want to have everything on there, but it's an option. All right, next we're going to come up to this Sort tab. Sort tab is going to be the order that your donation statements are going to print out. Giver name, it's going to be that alphabetical order. Giver number would be in obviously giver number order, and then zip code would put it in a zip code order, say you were needing to do a mailing or something like that. All right. And then the next tab is this Options tab. This tab is pretty important when you're running statements. You don't always have to come to this tab, but I would say take a look at it. This is where you can customize the names of fields on your donation statement. Okay, so here's where you would do the customizing. Say you use a different word other than pledged. Some users I talk to use the wording estimate of giving. So if you want to change the name or the word pledged from printing on your statements to estimate of giving, you would simply click in this box and then typed in what you want that custom label to be. All right. So pretty straightforward. This is where you would relabel fields for your donation statement. Now, down here, this is a newer feature in version 18. This is a handy little checkbox that will allow you to quickly adjust your donation statement. So if you want to see pledging information on your donation statement, then you will adjust this box accordingly. So we're going to leave it unchecked for our first example because I do want to see my pledgers' information print out on their mid-year donation statement. We'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when it's checked. But for now, we're going to leave that box unchecked. All right. And before we hit next, down here at the bottom, something called Saved Selections. This is also a newer feature for Church Windows. It allows you to save the criteria that you put in on the above tabs And then you can quickly come in and hit the down arrow and pick from that criteria in the future. So say you go through these tabs up at the top and you plug in specific settings for the people that you want to receive a statement. You can come down to the bottom and hit the floppy disk and save that criteria, so the next time you come in to print those statements, you would just hit the down arrow, select that saved selection. It would go back through all these tabs and plug in the criteria that you want, and then you could simply hit next. So you don't have to go through each tab when you're running a statement. You can set it to remember your settings. All right, so let me get my pointer back and we'll hit next. All right, so here's that step 2 I was telling you about. So this is where you can really get in and edit your donation statement. You can add a logo, you can put a message on it if you want to thank people for their giving. I also received an email for someone. They changed the name of the church and they wanted to be able to tell everybody about it. That would be a great place to use this global memo. So you would come in here and hit this little add, edit, delete button, and you could go in and create a message that would print at the bottom of your donation statements, informing people of the name change for your church. So that's what a global memo would do. And then also up here is the statement layout. This is where you go in and you decide what you want your donation statement to look like. So we have some default reports in here. If you hit the down arrow, you can scroll through and see what you have. Our default, or our most commonly used report, is going to be this windowed envelope. You can definitely go in and customize your windowed envelope by going into the statement designer here. We could talk about this for an hour, honestly, probably more, and we have before. There is a video on our website you can watch about customizing a statement, but for today we just don't have the time. But if you want to go in and make changes to your statement, if you want to go in, customize it, add a logo, like I said, it's a great idea to start with the windowed envelope and then click the statement designer button and go in and remove fields from printing, remove sections or add sections, pretty it up, or make it a little neater, not as much information, real basic, if that's something that you want to do. Statement designer is going to be the place for that. Okay, so let's move on. So I have my criteria in on step 1. Now I'm on step 2, and I want to see what my donation statements are going to look like. So my statement layout is this windowed envelope. It's a pretty basic, pretty clean layout that we've designed for you. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to hit this print/email statements. Now, you do have the option to email donation statements if you want to. That's also another webinar that we've done. But for now, you can see everybody has their print box checked here, and no email boxes checked, which means if I hit this print/email statement button, I'm going to get my print preview so I can actually see what everybody's statements look like. Unfortunately, I just got an error, so let me get back in here and let me try it again. All right, here we go again. Donation statement. And I'm going to adjust my date range like I've already done. And I'm going to hit next. And I did test this before the webinar and it worked fine when I tested it. So I want to see what's going on here. Windowed envelope. I'm going to hit print. And let's see what we get. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be a statement that is actually excluding any pledging information from printing. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty basic. So this is going to be for those churches who don't do pledging, or this is going to be for those churches who don't want to see any pledging information on a mid-year statement. There's a lot of great stuff on here though. So up at the top, it shows our date range. So your givers are going to know what time frame this statement is for. It's also going to list out each transaction or each gift that they've made to the church. It's also going to then have an account summary down here at the bottom showing them each account they've given to and a total. And then there's also this quarterly section down here, which is going to give an even more detailed breakdown of how much money came in and the total per each quarter. All of this can be changed. If you want to hide this, you can hide this. You can also hide this summary section or the detail section. A lot of times at the end of the year, people will hide this detail section because it can make some people's statements like 3 or 4 pages long. You can definitely do all that. Down here at the bottom, this is going to be where that global memo prints that I was talking about earlier, where if you want to put a little note in saying thank you to people or updating them on something that's changed, that can all be done down here. All right, let me erase my drawings and I'm going to jump back over and run a statement that does include pledging information. So we have to go back to step 1. And we need to go to the Options tab, and we are going to uncheck this box because we do want to see pledging information. And we're going to hit Next. We're going to continue to use our windowed envelope, and I'm going to hit Print. So here is an example of a statement that does include that pledging information. So you're still getting your date range up at the top as it was before. You're still getting each detailed transaction listed. But if you look down here, now we have something called pledge dates. So this is actually going to show you in these parentheses the pledge range for these people. So for Jan, she has 2 pledges, and this is the date range that she's pledged an amount to give. So if you look over here on the right, her frequency is weekly, and she's going to give $20 a week. So amount frequency is the dollar amount, frequency is the frequency that she's going to give, so when she's going to give towards her pledge. And then this pledged column is great because it's going to do the math for you within the date range that you've set your statement for. So for, or through, I should say, June 30th, this is what her pledged amount should be, or this is where she should be in regards to her pledge, $520. And then if you look over here, we have an amount given column. This shows us she's given $450. So then in her over-under column, it's showing a -70. So she's off her pledge by $70. Now, if there was a 0 in that box, that would mean she was right on target, or if there was a positive number in that box, that would then explain to them that they are actually over their pledge. Okay, same thing. If you don't like some of these columns, you can hide them by going into that report designer as well. Same thing down here in your quarterly section. Now you have a couple extra fields. You have a pledged field and a non-pledged field for each quarter, and then you have a total column. So it's showing you what money was pledged and what money wasn't on a monthly and a quarterly section. Same thing, if you want to hide this section, you definitely can by going into that report designer and removing that. Okay, let me erase my drawings. And I do want to show you, while we've been discussing how to remove these sections, I want to pop in real quick and show you how to do that. Oops, I need my pointer. All right, let me close this. I'm going to hit this Statement Designer button right here. And this is that screen where you can go in and do as much or as little customizing as you want. But the third toolbar down, right up here with these little check boxes, checkbox here, and a checkbox here. So if you decide you don't want to see that section at the bottom, that quarterly section, say it's just too much information, you don't need it, you would come up here to the Show Quarterly section checkbox, and you would simply click to remove that check mark. So right here, you would remove the check. Right? Say you don't want the details section. Say people give too often, it's taking up too much space. You would come in, remove the check mark, and you see down here on the designer that it's gone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove the quarterly section. And then you do have to do a save as because you're changing one of our default layouts. So I'll call it windowed envelope, no quarterly. Hit OK, it's going to save. And then I can come up to the top right, hit the X to close. And now when I can choose from my statement layouts, I now have a windowed envelope, no quarterly. If I hit print, my print preview shows that now that lower half is gone. All right, let me close this and let me look over here at my questions. I know we covered a lot. Let me see if I can help Kellyanne answer some of these here. So if you have any questions, feel free to go over to that questions tab like I mentioned earlier. Type any questions in and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, someone's asking to go over print labels. There is a button right up here in the top right. What this will do is it's going to print a label for everybody that's getting a donation statement, if that's something that you need. For windowed envelope, the windowed envelope layout is specifically designed to tri-fold and fit in a windowed envelope, therefore not needing labels. But if for whatever reason you still need to print labels, you definitely have that option here. If you click print labels, you can then choose what your label layout is, so what size label you're using. You can go and edit it or make a new one from here if you need to, but then simply hit print and it's going to come up with that sheet of labels for everybody that's getting a statement. All right, let me jump back over here and see what other questions we have. All right, doesn't look like we're having too many questions. Someone's also asking, do the emailed statements look differently? Mary Beth, they are not going to look differently. It's going to be the exact same statement that you preview, but it is going to be PDF'd and it's going to be then attached to the email that you're going to send out to your givers. So you would still go in and to the statement designer and format that statement exactly the same way you would if you were printing one. A lot of times what people will do, they'll format their statement and then they'll go through and send their emails, and then whomever doesn't have an email, then the preview will pop up and then you can print those. So it would be the remaining people that didn't get an email would then have their statement pop up in the preview. All right, guys, any more questions, type them in. I went about 5 minutes over. Sorry about that. There was just so much to cover. I wanted to make sure I could give you all the tips and helpful hints that I could. So any questions, type them in. If I don't see any pop in, I'm going to go ahead and just close up shop. So if you don't have any questions, feel free to leave. That's fine. All right. No more questions coming in. I am going to go ahead and close the webinar. Thank you all for attending. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you found something that will help make your job a little easier. If you have specific questions or I didn't cover exactly what you were looking for, please call us on our support line, or you can shoot us an email at support@churchwindows.com. You can also go out to YouTube and you can search for Church Windows, and we have a lot of videos out there on YouTube as well. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks.